flowers in the valleys bloom. It is there I would be, in this land by the sea, where each breeze bears a rich perfume. It is there nature gives of the fairest. It is home, sweet home to me. And though I leave with a sigh, I'll return by and by to my sunny California.
4 centuries and more ago, a romantic Spanish novelist invented a name for a place that had not even been discovered. Know ye, he wrote, that at the right hand of the Indies there is an island called California. He went on to describe it as a new terrestrial paradise, a phrase which few modern-day Californians are inclined to dispute. Ever since then, people have been coming to California in search of many things. Cabrillo was the first in 1542, and he sought new lands and treasure. More than 2 centuries later, in 1769, came the first colonizers, the Spanish Padres, seeking through their chain of missions to establish a new outpost of Christianity in a heathen world. And then, in 1849, gold became the magnet, which drew thousands of Americans across the plains in a great tide of migration which has never slackened. Where the early pioneers toiled for months on their journey, today's visitors traverse the nation in a few swift hours in search of a new world of things to see. And they are not disappointed, for within the bounds of this California, there is a whole world of sights to see. From the snowy peaks of Alp-like mountains to the sunny beaches of tropic isles, from the lakes and moorlands of an England to the drifting sands of an endless Sahara. So where Jules Verne dreamed of going around the world in a few months, today any vacationer to California can encompass a worldwide variety of new sights and new experiences in a few days. A world in a state, a world in a week. At 10 minutes past noon Eastern Standard Time, our DC-8 Jet Mainliner leaves New York International Airport and points its nose toward the sky, climbing swiftly to its cruising altitude of 31,000 feet. Our route follows the mainline airway, straight across mid-America, paralleling for much of the journey the old overland trail of the covered wagon pioneers. But those days seem almost impossibly distant as we relax in the quiet cabin. Either up front in first class or back in the custom coach section, there is comfort and luxury to spare, while outside your window, the landscape is unrolling before you at nearly 10 miles a minute. For possibly 60 of those minutes, you will be doing justice to a delicious luncheon, served piping hot by one of the 4 stewardesses assigned to each jet flight. And by the time you are enjoying your second cup of coffee, you'll be flying over Chicago. Down there, lunchtime has just begun at 12:31 Central Standard Time. It's almost unbelievable how these big jets eat up distance. 50 miles while you smoke a cigarette. 100 miles while you read a page in a magazine. Maybe 300 while you write a letter. Close to Omaha now at 1:16 p.m., still in the Central Time Zone. Flying into Mountain Time, we gain another hour, so it's only 1:06 p.m. as Denver slips by under our wings. Crossing the California Sierra in Pacific Time, still only 1:35 p.m. Downhill now, all the way. Across the bay with its spider web of bridges, the pinnacles of San Francisco, catching the early afternoon sun. Touchdown, 1:59 p.m. After flying over the Great Circle from New York, 2,600 miles away. California is a big state, and within its borders are many places to visit and many things to do. So more and more these days, travel-wise vacationers are using jet-age speed to give them added days of fun in California. Fortunately, at every airport, there are late model cars for rent for a day or a week or as long as you like, and a courteous agent to help you with directions and speed you on your way. San Francisco is a city of magnificent viewpoints, and one of the best is from the window of your hotel, perched high on the brow of Nob Hill. To the west, the city stretches out to the Golden Gate and its famous bridge. Nearby, the homes and apartments mount the topmost hills, reminding travelers of the 7 hills of ancient Rome. But not even Rome boasts the jangling, happy-go-lucky cable cars, which a vigilant citizenry has so far protected from the march of progress. These carefree conveyances have friends all over the world because sooner or later, everybody in San Francisco rides the cable cars, and nobody ever forgets it. San Francisco's hills extend southward along the Skyline Drive, where every curve opens a new vista of valley, or mountain, or distant ocean. And stretching for miles along the highway is a chain of lakes as blue as Como or Lucerne, part of San Francisco's water supply, but no less beautiful for that, especially in the springtime when the California poppies have their brief season of glorious bloom. Returning by the ocean shore, the road passes the famous Cliff House, which looks down on surf bathing rivaling that of Deauville. Strictly without a rival, however, and worth traveling many miles to see, is San Francisco's great Golden Gate Bridge, whose towers rise 700 feet from the water's edge and whose single span stretches 1.25 miles from shore to shore. If the city's hills are Roman, Fisherman's Wharf is straight out of Naples, from the brightly colored fishing boats to the liquid Italian accents of the sailors who bring in the catch. And whether you shop at the curb stalls for a home-cooked feast or have it served in style, San Francisco's seafood is just about as good as you'll find anywhere in the world. San Francisco is truly a cosmopolitan city. Chinatown, for one, is a real Chinese city on American soil, holding to its age-old language and ways. It has its own theaters, its own newspapers, the news and the advertisements hand-set in characters carved by Oriental craftsmen, and schools where almond-eyed youngsters supplement their American education with the traditional culture of their ancestors, learning in school and family to temper the restless drive of the new country with the deference and gentleness of the old. Many of Chinatown's families are supported by the dozens of bazaars along Grant Avenue, offering their wares in an atmosphere of beauty and quiet serenity. Quiet and serenity for 364 days a year, that is. The visitor who is lucky enough to visit San Francisco during the Chinese New Year's celebration will see old world pageantry and symbolism at its finest, following customs that are centuries old. And after the crowds and the noise, it's good to relax and recapture the flavor of your visit to one of the most glamorous cities in the world. East of San Francisco lies the great Central Valley, backdropped by the ramparts of the Sierra Nevada range. The road to California's heartland leads across the 13-mile Bay Bridge, one of the world's longest, and just about the only one to include a tunnel. Just east of the bridge lies the big and busy city of Oakland, where the rail lines meet the sea lanes to spawn an industrial growth remarkable even in California. Beyond the impressive buildings of Oakland and Berkeley, its northern neighbor, the population thins out and rich farmlands appear. This is the Sacramento Valley, and in its center, Sacramento itself, capital of the state. Sacramento is rich in history. Here is the historic terminus of the Pony Express, which brought the mail overland in 8 days from the Missouri River. Here, too, is Sutter's Fort, from which a man of destiny named James Marshall led a party of workmen to the American River, and there, in Sutter's mill race in January 1848, found the yellow flakes which touched off the California migration and changed the course of history. Relics of the wild years are still scattered along aptly named Highway 49, which winds among the Sierra foothills, past sleeping villages dreaming of the past, and crumbling ghost towns whose last resident is only a forgotten memory. Above the Motherlode country rise the granite peaks of the High Sierra, a vast mountain wilderness, 300 miles in length, where roads are few and trails are steep, especially to the top of Mount Whitney, 14,501 feet high. Cradled among the peaks are hundreds of alpine lakes, the largest of which is Tahoe, more than 30 miles in length. The awesome granite power of the Sierras comes to its climax in Yosemite National Park, where the filmy waters of Bridal Veil Fall are sometimes gone with the wind before they reach the valley floor. And Yosemite Fall makes a drop 9 times the height of Niagara. Yosemite's giant sequoia grow only in California. These great trees are the largest and the oldest living things on Earth. Some of them were already old when Christ was born. Westward from Yosemite, the highway traverses the rich San Joaquin Valley, an agricultural world in an hour. From the fruit orchards of Brittany to the vineyards of the Rhine Valley for raisins and wine, to the long staple cotton of Egypt and the pasture crops of Denmark and the Low Countries. Back to the seacoast again, the Riviera of this world in a week would certainly be the rugged Monterey Peninsula, whose incomparable 17-mile drive winds among the famous cypress trees, twisted into grotesque shapes by centuries of Pacific winds. Equally famous, or infamous, are the 4 championship golf courses. The 7th at Pebble Beach is surrounded by boiling surf, and the 18th is ranked as one of the 10 best holes in the world. Old Monterey was the seat of the Mexican government in California, and many historic buildings still stand. The original customs house, practically unchanged. Nearby, the first theater of the Dons and Rancheros, the first state house of the upstart Americanos, and tranquil Mission Carmel, where lies Junipero Serra, beloved founder of the California missions. South of Carmel are the cliffs and canyons of the Big Sur country, an almost primitive wilderness stretching for 100 miles along the ocean shore. California State Highway number 1, the spectacular scenic highway which serves this region, has been likened to the Costa Brava in Spain. And this comparison is strengthened by the appearance of a Spanish castle high on a distant mountaintop. It's the fabled Hearst Castle, La Cuesta Encantada, once the home of William Randolph Hearst, but now a state historical monument. More than 3 decades and $30 million went into the building of this great Spanish Renaissance structure. The castle and the 3 guest houses surrounding it are completely furnished with one of the world's greatest collections of medieval art. Every foot of ground on the enchanted hill has been exquisitely landscaped to provide a setting worthy of the castle. Most admired of the many beautiful sights is the oval Neptune Pool, a 250,000 gallons of filtered water surrounded by a graceful marble colonnade. At one end, the facade of an ancient Greco-Roman temple. On the opposite side, a sculptured group representing Venus rising from the sea. Only a few miles from America's largest missile base, Santa Inez Valley dozes in the sun. Its flowery fields, whether of the wild or cultivated variety, paint the landscape with a riot of color throughout the spring and summer season. In the heart of this lovely valley, where time slips by with unhurried pace, is the little Danish community of Solvang, another charming surprise for our world in a week. Here, old country customs are carefully preserved. The Danish flag, the church with its characteristic Danish architecture, and of course, the good Danish cooking, which few travelers are able to resist, especially a dish of able skewers, Danish pancakes to you, served hot and liberally drenched with fresh strawberry jam. Winding down from San Marcos Pass, the highway again meets the sea at Santa Barbara, where the stately palm trees sway gently in the breeze and the air is perfumed by a million flowers. Yes, this is indeed a worthy introduction to Southern California. Santa Barbara could be a city of Spain, serenely remembering its romantic past, but celebrating it particularly during the August Fiesta, when the ancestral clothes come out of the closets and the whole town parades in Spanish dress. This is home country for spirited horses and even more spirited riders. The brilliant costumes and silver trappings are often worth much more than the animals themselves. In the old mission days, it took 4 days by creaking ox cart from Santa Barbara to Los Angeles. Today, it's only 2 hours by freeway to the fabled City of the Angels, spreading as far as the eye can see across the coastal plain. About 60% of California's people live and work in Southern California, a region whose fantastic growth still continues to amaze the population experts. From cities and towns all over the country, thousands of visitors arrive at Los Angeles International Airport each day. Some looking for work, some on business affairs, and others just to have fun. From Los Angeles Civic Center, high-speed freeways radiate in all directions, serving a city which is swiftly approaching the point, heaven forbid, where the number of motor vehicles will equal the total population. Modern shopping centers, scattered throughout the city, help to relieve downtown congestion. And even in the nation's third largest city, there are many miles of quiet streets and beautiful homes where families can practice that unique brand of indoor-outdoor living which contributes so much to the charm of the Southern California way of life. 5 million people have to eat, and sometimes around noon, it seems that most of them are clustered around the 150 shops and stalls of the glamorous farmers market. You can take it with you if you like, or you can imagine yourself in a sidewalk market in Casablanca and eat it here. Veteran Southlanders consider lunch at the farmers market a test in self-control. If you can get up from the table and walk away under your own power, you have proved yourself a person of character. Of course, to most people, Hollywood will always mean the movies. The town has grown sophisticated in the years since Lasky and DeMille filmed The Squaw Man back in 1913, but that old celluloid magic still weaves its spell. The studio gates are as hard to pass for a visitor as for a hopeful starlet. But one sightseeing tour gives a wonderful backstage look at this strange make-believe world where the sights are concentrated not in a week, but in a few minutes. In recent years, The younger arts of radio and television have dominated the Hollywood scene. But up at the other end of the boulevard, picture business still reigns. Its royal court, the paved entrance to Grauman's Chinese Theater. When an actor plants here his hand or foot or leg, he has arrived. When his personalized block of cement is removed, and it could happen, he is through. But tragedies and heartbreaks are forgotten on nights when the Chinese or the Egyptian stages a big premiere. When the stars arrive in glittering array and the fans turn out by thousands to cheer their favorites in the flesh. Every California community seems to have its characteristic celebration. And Pasadena's, of course, is the Tournament of Roses, held every New Year's Day since 1889. Hundreds of devoted people work around the clock on New Year's Eve so that the millions of fresh flowers which cover the floats will be fresh and dewy when the parade starts. It seems hard to believe that all these flowers grow from land that, in its natural state, is semi-arid desert. Without water, the land sleeps. With water, it leaps to life and supports an agricultural kingdom whose riches are enjoyed in every corner of the nation. A few miles away is an utterly different kingdom, a kingdom of the sea. Here in marine land of the Pacific, thousands of finny specimens are on view, and highly trained animals put on a marine circus before 2 million visitors each year. These are the bottlenose dolphins, said to be the world's most intelligent animals, second only to man. California sea lions are great favorites with the crowd. Like any ham actor, they love to play to the gallery and just naturally enjoy human company. The star of the show is Bubbles the whale. 1,700 pounds of love and affection for her trainer and her fans. Bubbles and her partner, Bimbo, are the only trained whales in the world. And they display an amazing degree of intelligence, in everything except money. Where else could you find a performer who would work all day for a few buckets of squid? For most Southern Californians, the greatest playgrounds of all are the dozens of beaches lining the Pacific shore. Malibu, Santa Monica, Redondo, Long Beach, and Balboa. Each has its favorites and its own distinctive charm. One of the prime favorites would certainly be Laguna, with its cottages clinging to the sea-worn cliffs, its white surf and blue water coves. A region of such natural beauty almost inevitably becomes an art colony. Many resident painters are of international reputation. Others still have their art to learn and reputations to earn. Farther down the coast is another favored beauty spot, La Jolla, the jewel, whose sea-worn cliffs and caves are often compared to Italy's Isle of Capri. Southernmost of California's coastal cities, San Diego's population has now passed the 1 million mark, a far cry from the tiny mission settlement established here in 1769. But the flavor of old Spain still lingers among the pathways and pools of Balboa Park and its world-famous zoo, a playground which any city would be proud to call its own. few miles south is the flimsy fence and markers which we use on this continent instead of machine guns to mark an international boundary. Tijuana lies in Mexico, but American tourists enter freely without passports, and the customs regulations are generous about bringing back the colorful and characteristic Mexican handicrafts. Back to the States, our world in a week comes to its end in a facsimile of a spot that might be an oasis in dry and rocky Mesopotamia. The wise men of old would not have felt it all strange in the little palm-bordered gulch from which Palm Springs took its name. But something new has been added, namely water, energy, and money, in about that order. And modern Palm Springs is the surprising result. Where winter temperatures stay around 80, and the living is the essence of California. Lots of sun, as few clothes as possible, and all the relaxation you can soak up in the time you have to spend.
I love you, California. You're the state that welcomes all. I love you in the winter.
As any experienced vacationist knows, one reason for making a trip is so you can send postcards to your envious friends back home. We're sleeping under blankets, the cards read in summer. In winter, getting a wonderful tan. To the really dedicated postcard author, California offers opportunities unmatched. For California is still that mythical island at the right hand of the Indies. The new world the explorers, the 49ers, and now you have sought and found. The world in a state. The world in a week.
And though I leave with a sigh, I'll return by and by to my sunny California.